Hello, thank you again for tuning in. We've been having great conversation with Wanjiru Githiomi, the CEO of BimaNet, about her experiences, moving to the diaspora, reconnecting back home, and more importantly, making investments back home. So in today's episode, I'm going to ask her about experiences investing outside of Kenya. I know you mentioned that you've invested in Cape Town.
Yes.
Is that the only location outside of Kenya that you've invested in so far?
Yes.
Okay.
You see, I'm an investor in two ways. I'm an investor for capital appreciation and an investor for cash flow. So for capital appreciation is what I do with the land in Kenya. Because I think there is always time. It's always the right time to buy land in Kenya as long as you buy it strategically.
Yeah.
It's a good place to park money that you can access 10 years later to do something else.
Yeah.
So I think for me, the acquisition of land for capital gains is very clear. That's my Kenyan strategy.
Sure.
But for cash flow, when I look at the rental return on properties in Nairobi, for example, which is a city that I know, vis-a-vis the cost of its acquisition, it doesn't make sense. If I was to take a mortgage, we call it we call it a mortgage here?
Yeah.
Or
mortgage.
Bonds. If I took a bond, I do a very simple calculation. Will the rental income will the rental yield get me back pay back its bond? Or at least 80%,
Right.
Because I don't want to be out of pocket. It's very important as a property investor to have cash flow coming in.
Absolutely.
So when I look at a cost of an apartment in Kileleshwa, vis-a-vis maybe 25 million and I'm only getting 70K in rent, doesn't make any sense at all.
Right.
So Cape Town, my husband and I found that we get a lot better return on investment because we specialize in 1.2 million rand and below. And with a property like that one is a 2-bedroom apartment that is going to get you a tenant that will pay about 9,000 to 10,000 rand.
Okay.
So I can comfortably say that all our properties are cash flow positive.
Yeah.
So they pay their mortgages or there's very little that we have to pay in. I don't want to pay into a bond more than 2,000 rand every single month.
Okay.
So that is the principle, because you obviously have to acquire properties that, with time, as you're putting money into the mortgage that you took, that eventually it will be free of the mortgage and you're just getting rental.
Absolutely.
Because there's going to come a time when we can't work as hard as we work, and that's what we're building for now.
Right.
We're in our 40s, but we've got a strategy that when we get to our 50s and our 60s, how much property for cash flow, meaning rental income,
passive income
that comes in whether we work or we don't, and that it is free of any loans.
Right.
So to answer your question, yes, Cape Town is the area, and very specifically because I know Cape Town.
Okay.
I know Cape Town, I know what the rental yields are in particular places, I know what kind of tenants you will get in particular places.
Right.
Because there are some areas which are problematic and some are not. And
right.
the way we advise people when it comes to acquiring property, know your area well, specialize. Don't buy here, there, Sijui, Joburg, Durban, Cape Town, and then Cape Town you're buying there. Because you have to be able to compare apples with apples.
Okay.
So buy in the same street, buy in the same suburb or the next suburb. Understand what kind of tenants are you looking for.
Right.
Are you looking for long-term tenants, short-term tenants, etc.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So based on your target monthly rental yields, you're looking at roughly 0.8% of the property value.
Yes, exactly.
Which is, so if you compare that with Kilimani, for example, I think Kilimani, if you're buying at 22, 23 million and getting rents of 70K, that's less than 0.4%.
Exactly.
It takes forever to get your money back.
And it will take out of your active income every month because you have to
Right.
subsidize that loan.
Right.
That property doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the bank. It's the bank's asset.
Right.
So you're using your own active income to put into the bank to cover the shortfall of what your loan,
Yes.
what is it called? Your yield.
Your yield.
Your rental yield is. It doesn't make sense. That's just tying up a lot of cash.
I agree. I have a few, one or two friends and a few people I know who've complained about this, especially with the high interest rates in Kenya.
Exactly.
Where you've taken out a mortgage to buy this building or this apartment, and they're topping up another 80 to 120K a month.
That's too much cash.
On top of the rent, which to me beats the whole point of making such an investment in the first place.
Yeah.
The point is for it to pay for itself, to
Yes.
carry its own weight.
It carry its own cost. Yes.
And then when it's done paying for itself, then you can collect that income for yourself. So that's an area I try to avoid having conversations about, because for Kenya it specifically doesn't make any sense at all.
The economics around the built property, especially the Nairobi, Kilimani, Kileleshwa, Westlands,
Right.
The economics don't make sense, and I've heard it's because of many things. There's of course a lot of grey money sitting in the economy. People don't really feel the cost of.
Right.
It depends on who they are targeting. Also, Kenyans, we are so emotive about owning the property that we live in.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, the house that you live in is not an asset. It's a liability. I don't mind renting. As long as I've got a good landlord, I don't mind renting and actually putting my money elsewhere, acquiring a property elsewhere. I don't need to own the property I live in if it doesn't make economic sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I share the same view. It's one of the reasons. It was one of the motivations for getting into land investment, to be honest, because we did the math in our own rudimentary kind of way. And we just knew that it didn't make any financial sense to take up that kind of obligation, where even if we were to rent, the yields would be paltry.
Ridiculous, yeah.
So we figured, hey, let's take our few shillings that we have, that we own free and clear, buy a piece of land in the right place, wait a few years, however long that's going to take. I mean, if I was to use your example, at 15,000% over 14 years, then you're okay selling off the asset and paying cash for the house that you wanted to live in.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
As opposed to getting tied down with a mortgage.
Yes.
Because that money has grown a lot faster than the banks would have offered you.
Yeah.
It's outstripped inflation rates.
By going for everything.
And it was passive. It was a passive growth
yeah.
in value. You were not involved. It's not like
no
you were
maintenance,
there.
no
Right,
nothing. Yeah.
Right. So
na akiba hayozi.
True.
Yeah.
True.
You put it somewhere, it's land, it's soil, it won't rot.
Right.
You know, it won't be stolen.
Right.
Make sure, of course, you've got the right people taking care of your property, because especially if you're living in the US, you may take too long to come home and then somebody acquires it by,
right.
you know.
If you're an absentee
owner.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to have some kind of presence. These are all things we try to address. But it's interesting to hear your perspective, having invested back home, specifically for capital gains.
Yes.
Because for revenue generation, it does not make sense in Kenya, but works in Cape Town.
Yes.
For many different reasons.
Yes.
Lower interest rates, property values are commensurate with rental yields.
The economics make sense.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I've actually got quite a few Kenyan friends who have asked me to help them acquire property for them in Cape Town.
I see.
Yes, and there are some clever Kenyans, strong Kenyans who are even acquiring them in blocks of apartments. They just do the simple mathematics. This entire block is going to
block in Kilimani.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Student towns are doing very well. The universities, especially around Cape Town, because we've got lots. Education is big, and there is not enough accommodation, especially in campus.
Sure.
So there's a lot of development happening around the student towns, and a lot of students get loans to study, and they pay market value for rentals.
Right.
So there is a lot of good properties coming out there that you will never struggle with tenants.
Sure.
And they will always pay on time.
Awesome. That's great advice. So for you guys in the diaspora, this is my takeaway. Don't get bogged down about investing back home just because it's home. Invest where it makes sense.
Yes.
Right? So if you're keen to invest back home in Kenya specifically, try and focus on land investments, because the yields on those are better than most parts of the world. Based on our own research, Kenya is an anomaly. People don't even know how to wrap their heads around property values, specifically for land. And that's true really anywhere in Kenya, from Nairobi to outside. I mean, Nairobi, for example, we're outpriced as locals. Most of us don't have $4 million to pay for an acre in Westlands.
Oh, that's shocking, eh?
Yeah, and so it's the Chinese and other Europeans and some Nigerians who are coming with oil money and buying our prime.
You can't compete. You can't
Right.
compete.
Because even for them, those yields for land investments, even if they're going to develop, make more sense here than it does in their own countries. And so don't get bogged down about investing back home just for the sake of it. If you're going to invest back home, invest in the right area. And consider investing in other parts of the continent. I'm a big proponent of supporting our own and putting money back home, whether it's Kenya or Africa in general. And I'm sure some of us will be reaching out to you to help us find apartments in Cape Town when we're ready.
Oh yes,
Right.
yes.
So I hope that conversation has helped you. If you have any questions around this whole issue, please feel free to send those in through social media platforms. You can also send us an email to enquiry@goshenacquisitions.com. We'll be happy to engage with you, maybe even put you in touch with Wanjiru when you want to buy that apartment in Cape Town and get it insured as well. So stay tuned. We'll have a lot more of these kinds of conversations in the weeks to come. If you have any special requests, please let us know as well. Wanjiru, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For making time to have a chat around this. I really appreciate it. I'm honored. And I wish you all success investing some more.
And thank you as well, Solomon, for all the wisdom and your generosity about all the information that you share on your platforms, and also having one-on-ones with you has also opened me up to a lot of things that I did not know about investing in land in Kenya, because obviously it's not only investing in one place, we want to move in other places and we want to acquire more.
Yeah.
So thank you for that generosity, and thanks for having me on your show.
Most welcome, it's our pleasure.
Yeah.
Sawa.
Cheers, asante sana.
Thank you guys, stay tuned. You're watching Own Land in Kenya and I'm Solomon Wangwe.